Selma is considered by many to be one of the more powerful films in recent memory, dealing with a very important turning point in American history. But it is what it is, a movie, a dramatization. And those taking this as a factual account of the march organized and led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. are turning drama into reality. Let's welcome to Midpoint Senior Pastor at the Hope Christian Church in Washington, D.C., founder and chairman of the High Impact Leadership Coalition, Bishop Harry Jackson Jr. joins us today. Bishop, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Glad you could have me.
Pleasure. Let me also start, though, with the movie Selma itself, because as I noted, and as I think you will agree, a stunning moment in American history that needs to be looked at, talked about. But before we get into a little bit deeper conversation here, I heard people this weekend talking about what a wonderful movie it was to tell us about the facts of what happened. Isn't that just dangerous? We need to pull back because Lyndon Baines Johnson was nowhere near what they portrayed him in the film. We have to make sure that people understand this is a dramatization. You can then learn from this, correct?
Yes, but we also have to understand that Hollywood is notorious for telling what they think is a good story. So at root, we have to understand that they're going to have a romanticized version of what went on. But we want to celebrate, I believe, the civil rights accomplishments that were made.
Absolutely celebrate it, but I think you pointed it out right there at the beginning. We need to keep a moment here, and just remember, Hollywood does this to sell tickets, so we need to make sure that we get to the facts in all these films, correct?
Exactly right. Their motive is profit, and that's clear. But we can use this crisis moment in American history to point the way to constructive changes that need to happen in the real society.
Then let us talk about those constructive changes, because this weekend past in Dallas, you were part of the national leaders to convening in Dallas to take practical steps toward racial reconciliation. What did you, not necessarily what you focused on, because I think we all know what many of the problems are here, but let's get down to some of the solutions here at this point. Where do we need to go in order to find actual solutions for people to start talking about race and not being offended every time it's discussed?
Well, I think if we begin to take positive steps of action, such as criminal justice reform is something that has to happen in order to bring a sense of fairness to the Black community. We're calling upon President Obama to address specifically in laws that have already been passed, criminal justice reform, educational reform that's necessary to improve the reading scores and the academic ability of the last, the least, and the lost. And I believe if we will begin to work in what we call in our event the 7 bridges to peace, that all of the rhetoric will begin to die down and we can start taking positive action. But it's going to take the Black, the brown, and the white-led churches to lead the way to bring a conciliatory tone and these positive steps of action, in my view.
With about a minute that we have left then, what are the hard choices that the Black community needs to make in order to make sure that they are doing everything possible to ensure that this racial reconciliation is happening?
Number one, Black kids at the 3rd grade have to be able to read. If Black boys can't read, the likelihood of them being engaged with activities that lead to jail is just very, very high. Also, we need to make sure that those who've made young, youthful mistakes are appropriately reassembled and reconnected into society. And there are specific things that the church can do to lead the way to help on both those fronts. One preventative, and then one would be restorative. We got to do that urgently, or we're going to have a whole generation that is at odds with the law, and problems are going to continue to occur in Black and brown communities all over the land.
Bishop Harry Jackson, unfortunately, we're out of time here, but I tell you what, let's get you back real soon because there's a lot of things that need to be done on both the white and the black side of things to make sure that we are at least talking. And I think in many ways, that's what we miss an awful lot is just simply the talking to get things started. Bishop Harry Jackson Jr., again, thank you so much for your time, sir. I'll look forward to speaking again.
Same here. Thank you for your time.
Break, and we're back on the other side with a discussion on the other side of keeping America safe, and this one involves the NSA.